3 months ago, I finally gave in and gave single speed mountain biking a shot. I built up my Santa Cruz Chameleon as a single speed hardtail and figured I'd just try it out. I didn't really expect to like it, but now 3 months later, I'm completely blown away. I genuinely didn't think a rider like me would even enjoy single speeding. I always preferred descending over climbing, fun over fitness, and I always thought single speed was for super fit XC guys. So I wanted to make this video not to convert everybody, but to speak to that version of myself that was sitting on the fence, full of doubt and concerns about single speed. Because maybe some of you are die-hard single speed fans just sitting on the fence too. I found that most of my concerns fit into 4 categories: cost, injury, fitness, and terrain. So let's talk about it. First up, cost. A major concern when doing any upgrade on a bike is cost. 2025 is an economic doozy and nobody wants to spend money if they don't have to. Well, it just so happened that my 12-speed Eagle drivetrain on my Chameleon needed replaced. I was thinking of going with a reliable and budget-friendly group set, but even the cheapest ones would have ran me over $200. So I kept my 32-tooth chainring and my 12-speed chain, did away with the shifter, derailleur, and the cassette, and swapped it for a 19-tooth wolf tooth cog and a Origin 8 spacer kit. I got super lucky that my Chameleon has sliding dropouts, so I didn't need a chain tensioner, and I think it looks super clean. But even if I did need a chain tensioner, I still think a single speed drivetrain would end up being cheaper than a geared one, just because there's less parts. Cost is always something to take into consideration, and I recommend not spending money if your drivetrain works fine. But if you're due for a new drivetrain like I was, it could be the perfect time to experiment with single speed.
It's just so cool not having any derailleur slap in the back. That is just so cool, man.
Next one is injury. Now this one's a little more personal. And I want to be super clear here. I am not a doctor and this is not medical advice in any shape or form. But I do want to share my story because I think it's pretty crazy. Back in high school, I had a pretty bad MCL injury that I got while playing soccer. Ever since then, my knee would flare up on longer rides. It was never a high level of pain, it was just always something that I just worked around. But because of that, I was always very hesitant to try single speeding because I've always heard that it's hard on your knees. Strangely enough, since I started single speeding, I haven't felt any knee pain, which is honestly really crazy. My guess is that it has to do with my riding position. On a single speed, when I'm pedaling, I'm typically standing up. And on a geared bike, when I'm pedaling, I'm typically sitting down. This creates 2 totally different body positions. When standing to pedal, my body weight and knees are farther forward over my toes. And when I'm sitting, my body weight and knees are farther back over my toes. If you know who the knees over toes guy is, this might make sense to you. If not, I'll put a link to his channel down in the video description so you can take a look after this video. Basically, the knees over toes guy, Ben Patrick, believes that contrary to popular belief, allowing your knees to go over your toes when you bend or squat is actually good for building stronger, healthier legs. When I stand to pedal, my knees move more forward over my toes, which loads the quads more and also uses my glutes, hamstrings, calves, and core. This distributes the load more evenly across my entire body rather than just hammering my knees with every pedal stroke. In addition to that, yes, I'm pedaling harder on a single speed, but at the end of the day, I'm actually pedaling less. Gears allow me to spin more, which leads to more total knee cycles on any given ride. Perhaps that trade-off leads to less irritation because I'm not grinding my knees through thousands of tiny movements. Another thing is, riding single speed forces me to be more engaged. I'm moving my body more, adjusting my weight, and riding more athletically. Therefore, unconsciously improving my form and avoiding lazy positions that could cause stress over time. Single speed mountain biking has definitely helped with my issues, but again, I'm not here to make medical claims or say this will magically fix your pain. I've heard stories from other riders experiencing similar positive results, but I've also heard the opposite. It really comes down to what kind of injury you're experiencing. But if you're curious and you're not in an active flare-up or just had a fresh injury, I would say give it a try and see how your body responds. And if you've had a different experience, good or bad, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear how it felt for you. Okay, that was a heavy one there. Let's shake it off. Let's get back to nice, calm vibes. I hate talking about such serious stuff, but yeah, it's kind of necessary sometimes. Category number 3. Fitness. So before I tried single speeding, I definitely thought that single speed was only for elite XC monsters or masochists, but turns out that's not always the case. Now, I've never considered myself a fitness beast. I ride once or twice a week and eat cupcakes, cookies, and donuts if they're available to me. I value fun over everything. I love jumping, jibbing, and taking the goofiest lines. I was never the guy who I thought would be a single speed enjoyer. I don't know who started this myth that only super strong fitness obsessed riders can ride single speed, because it's just not true. Right away on the very first day, I was able to do the same distance and elevation that I normally do and only had to walk once because of a blatant user error. I know you're not going to believe me with this one, but I actually believe it's easier to ride single speed than it is to ride with gears. The reason I think it's easier is because I ride a single speed bike totally different than I ride a bike with gears. I already mentioned this in the last part of the video, but I really think it comes down to feeling more engaged and athletic on the bike. Gears kind of let me become passive when I'm tired, and on a single speed, you really only have two options: ride or walk. And nobody wants to walk, so of course I just end up pushing myself through a tough section. I will admit single speeding pushes me to my extremes, but it never pushed me past what I could handle. The fitness I needed to ride single speed was always there, I just wasn't accessing it. At one point I realized for myself that a 10-mile ride at a leisurely pace was not much different than a 10-mile ride at a leisurely pace with a few high-effort sprints thrown in. Something I'm really glad I did was consider my gear ratio and where I would be riding. I think that was the key to make it fun and doable right out of the gate. The bottom line is single speeding does not require extreme fitness to get started. It was extremely fun and surprisingly easy even on the very first day. Before we get to the last one, if you're enjoying this video, do me a favor and go down and hit the like button. It's the best free way to support our channel and we really appreciate it. Okay, on to the last one, terrain. Not train. Now here in Pennsylvania, we have some incredibly steep, rocky, technical terrain with never-ending climbs. The exact types of trails I thought single speeding would be miserable on. I was fully expecting to suffer, but to my surprise, it's actually easier somehow.
I'm just loving it. Even on these like rocky trails at Rocky Ridge, it's just so good.
Over the past few months, I've learned to carry momentum better, pick smarter lines, and maneuver the bike in a way that smooths out even the rockiest of trails. Because the rear end of the bike is not bogged down by a heavy cassette, I feel like I'm able to move the bike around easier and it feels more like an extension of my body. On climbs, I'm forced to use a harder, faster gear, which keeps the bike moving up and over obstacles. And on descents, I'm thinking ahead, using my brakes less so I don't need my hardest gear to play catch up. Over the past few months, I've been riding single speed with my friends who ride gear bikes, and they haven't even gapped me once on a descent. So you don't really need the hardest gear, trust me. The limitations of single speed riding actually force me to be more engaged and look farther up the trail, which leads to more efficient riding. The only place where single speed riding truly sucks is on long, flat paths. That's where gears definitely win. But it's not super often that you'll be riding a mountain bike on anything like that, but it's worth mentioning. I'm sure there's some spots on my local trails where gears would be nice, but I've been shocked over and over again by how well the single speed bike handled trails that I was sure it wouldn't work on. Alright, so now that we laid it all out, what's my biggest takeaway from all of this? My biggest takeaway is that it's way easier than I ever thought it was going to be, and I really wish I would have tried it sooner. I love the simplicity, I love the way it puts me in tune with the trails, and I love that I don't have to worry about smashing my derailleur on a rock. If you ride single speed already, I'd love to hear what surprised you when you first started. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll make sure I get back to you. So, am I totally done with gears? No. Of course, I still ride geared bikes all the time, but for me, single speeding has added a whole new level of fun and simplicity to riding. I hope you found this video fun and helpful. If you did, please go down and hit the like button, and thanks for watching.